Clark, and this is Lombardi's Bar.
This is one of my...
This is Kenny Clark, and this is Lombardi's Bar.
This is one of my favorite podcasts to do.
I'm just, blessed and thankful to be a part of this podcast. It's a great podcast. It's a great interview.
Maybe, I know that you guys obviously being the best Packers podcast that's out there.
I had Malort this weekend, so I'm not tasting anything.
Oh, good
He did.
God.
He did. That was fantastic.
Because they said, "Did you ever try Malort?" And I said, "No." And then they said, "Do you want to take a shot of Malort?" I said, "No," but I did.
Wait, who said
It's called
Peer pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tried to get in a high honors English class once. They called my parents and were like, "Hey, just tell him he can't do it."
It shows. It really shows.
I hate you guys so much.
I'm going to throw these two guys into the screen so that if I die, they can carry on the legacy of crap that is this show. Oh, that's right, gang. The bartender is back. I am back up in this piece, and I am putting cases out on all you bitches. You're going to be playing basketball in Pelican Bay. Shoe program. 23-hour lockdown. King Kong ain't got shit on me. The bartender is back, everybody. Welcome into Lombardi's Bar. If you haven't done so, take a second to go over to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you get notified every time that we go live. You might get blessed with 2 or 3 intros. Who knows what the hell is going to happen on this show. Let's bring in these two guys here real quick because we got a fantastic show to discuss. Lots of Packer content. It's Jimmy. It's Todd. Gentlemen, how you doing? How's it going?
I was so nervous at that intro. I was like, "Is my computer glitching already?" I just was like, I had just assumed my Wi-Fi messed up again, but I was just happy it wasn't me.
I'm still trying to find a way to blame you, Jimmy, so you're not clear yet.
Honestly, you could convince me it was my fault. If you come up with a good enough reason, I'd go along with it.
I think when Matt talked about not having the bandwidth on his computer for 2 streams at the same time, we really, really, really should have listened to it.
Not telling you to power through.
I think another takeaway that we can have, and this can be tabled for a later date, we should probably try to be more prepared for other people that are helping us with our show. I've noticed a trend that some people like to have a clue what's going on as we just kind of freewheel it. So
we're very much a throw you into the deep end without any floaties sort of program.
Yeah. Starting to think it wasn't just a Jasmine problem.
I don't know. It seems like her fault.
Someone who is not the problem. Let's bring in this guy, a guy that we love to have on every single year. It's Matt. It's what? Wes Hodkiewicz.
Matt.
I thought it was Matt.
So here's what I love about this show. I was like, all right, we're going to do the pod again. This is great. We're going to do Lombardi's Bar. And then, I feel like I'm on a different show. Dan, there's no longer a bow tie. He's cursing. It sounds like he's doing rap music. Todd's in witness protection down there. And Jimmy's just Jimmy with his ever-growing collection of jerseys.
For the record, that was training day. That was Denzel Washington in Training Day.
Right, but I remember that from Training Day. But you were so prim and proper and everything, and now it's like, holy cow!
Wes, I was
not.
I was
direction on me.
I was a gilded lily, Wes. I was a gilded lily.
Yeah,
if I didn't know you weren't bringing the bow tie anymore, I would have worn one.
Nice shot,
honestly,
man.
that's on us too, not being prepared. So,
but I replaced the bow tie with my old school Piggly Wiggly T-shirt. So.
You know what, though, Dan? Not a Piggly Wiggly guy. Do you know why?
Why?
Kind of like Aaron Rodgers with the chip on his shoulder. When I was in high school, Piggly Wiggly turned me down. They didn't want my employment. So I went and worked at McDonald's instead. Shout out to McDonald's. Nice regional business.
That was my. Did you ever put chicken nuggets in your pockets while you worked?
Oh, hell yeah.
No, I was very upstanding. I was a crew chief. I was a very upstanding worker.
You would have for sure got away with it then, honestly. No one would have questioned
it. It's not about stealing. You can't steal, Jimmy.
It's not stealing, it's tips.
I worked at McDonald's in the great period of time when they had the chicken tenders, like the
Select.
chicken. Oh, now
Chicken
those.
selects.
Yeah.
What's the
now
most
that.
of those you could fit in your pocket at one time, Dan?
He wore like 8 sizes too big just to fit extra.
I did have big pockets on my crew pants. I probably stuck out like a whole 5-piece once in my pants.
Is that a 5-piece in your pocket, or you just
Man, this show just like I remembered it.
Hey, Dan, one more question for you before we jump over to Wes here. How many holes you got in that shirt?
There's this guy right there.
I didn't say show him to us.
The collar's going. There's another one in the back over here. There's probably at least like 3 or 4 in this bad boy.
That's a good shirt.
I'm pretty sure I bought this the Super Bowl year.
Wes is double checking him.
I think I bought this in 2010.
I like it. Wes, how many blocks of cheese that I gave you last week have you eaten already?
1.5. My parents are helping me out with that though. Because you may not know this, Todd. I do eat cheese, but I'm not a
you don't like it.
Not even that I just necessarily dislike it, because I'm not trying to put a bad thing on cheese, but I don't probably eat it as much as your average Wisconsinite. Okay. And when I do, I usually like it in the melted variety, not the raw variety, as I always call it. So,
yep.
But I'm very excited about the cappuccino.
I am too. I haven't tried that one yet.
I'm psyched.
Yeah, I might have to actually go
buy
cappuccino
cheese.
I guess I haven't opened it yet.
Cappuccino Jack.
Yep.
Okay.
I showed it to my mom and she's like, it's like coffee. I'm like, well, yeah. What else would cappuccino be like?
The snozberries taste like snozberries.
Yeah. Jay knows it was Meister, and there is Morel and Leek in that bag as well.
Okay.
I'm excited for it.
I have to, not to get off cheese topic, Wes, before we get into football, I need to ask you an MMA question, mainly because I got permission to get one this time. Because last time I was
storm off the set.
I got a strict 0 last time, and they were nice enough to give me 1.
You still asked
we should close on the MMA questions though? Like, should that be the thing that ends it?
You choose. You're the guy.
No, you guys tell me. Okay, let's do the MMA question. Maybe next time we end it.
Because otherwise it'll run on and that'll be the entire show.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what happened last time. Once I get going on MMA, it's kind of hard to make me stop.
We'll keep you for like 2 hours on accident.
Wes, how many emails a week do you get about bringing Mason Crosby back?
We do the insider inbox column, the Q&A, and that is something that's been a popular sentiment. I love Mason a lot. I also see both sides of it, where the Green Bay Packers made an adjustment. They made a decision, and they drafted Anders Carlson. And I'll tell you this, guys. You need consistency to survive in this league. Everybody knows it. It's an 80%, 85% clip, and you got to keep your job. But the amount of leg talent that Anders shows, and you guys have seen a very small bit of it in these preseason games, you can see why the Packers were excited about him. And before people go nuts about this thing, I just want to say, if you ask the Minnesota Vikings, I think they erred significantly letting go of his older brother as soon as they did. That was a reactionary thing for Mike Zimmer and that staff to do. And obviously he's blossomed into an all-pro now for the Raiders. Patience is going to be key. You need production too, no question about it. You have to get it between the uprights, but this kid is not missing for a lack of leg talent or overall accuracy. I just think there's some mechanical things he's working through. I love Mason more than probably anybody. I love his brother. I love their family. Awesome, awesome people. And honestly, I think it's a crime that he's not a kicker in the league right now. I mean, in a league where, Brett Maher is being brought out again in Denver. No disrespect to Maher, but you see all the issues he had at the end of last season. How guys like Mason and Robbie Gould don't have jobs or didn't even get an opportunity really does baffle me in a league that for a long time, those kickers were getting opportunities in their 40s. So I think the Packers made the right move in terms of where they're headed right now and what they're dedicated to. But I do think it's criminal that somewhere in the NFL, Mason Crosby isn't a kicker right now.
Wes, I love you, buddy. I think you're one of the best out here. And I appreciate you giving me the political answer that you need to give me, because it's all your sentiments, all your points correct. But I need an over under. Is it over under 15 emails a week that you get where somebody says, "Why are we not bringing Mason Crosby back?"
Sure, fair point. Because of that Q&A that I do, not because of just my normal inbox. There, it probably is above it right now, because that's the reactionary thing for fans to do.
Sure.
I mean, people, when they're familiar with something, they want to stick with that something. And the job of the GM, the job of the coaching staff, is to try to see what tomorrow looks like more so than just what today is. So, yeah, it would probably be north of that. But at the same time, I think listening to Anders and his personality and mindset, I think the Packers probably feel pretty good about where he's at. It's just going to be about getting this thing straightened out.
How have you seen the coaching change with having a veteran in there for so long, like Mason Crosby, to now having in a rookie who could be like, is at times struggling right now? Like, has there been like a coaching shift in the philosophy of it all?
Well, I mean, I would trust Rich Bisaccia with pretty much anybody. Him, Byron Storr seems to handle the specials a little bit more too, his longtime assistant. And that's their baby. And as Rich said last Friday, and if you haven't had a chance to check out Rich's interview, I think we have the link up on Packers.com. I'm sure you can find it other places too. Finally hearing from Rich was actually the first time we've talked to him since OTAs. It was an interesting to gain his perspective on everything. And the fact is that him and Brian Gutekunst, they were in lockstep with this decision. They felt good about it. And at the end of the day, when you commit yourself to a guy, it's about trying to help that guy improve and become the type of potential and player that he can be. So I feel like there was a lot of upheaval for a couple of years with the Packers and their special teams, but now having that foundation there with Rich, with Byron, I think it's all there for the Green Bay Packers to be able to work through some of those issues.
So we might see some more touchbacks on kickoffs too now. Because
what's funny?
That disappeared for a while.
Somebody asked me that in inbox today. How many fair catches have you seen so far from the Green Bay Packers? And I was like, damn it. I don't know about league wide. You guys probably have watched more preseason football than I have. I don't know if that's something that's actually going to be a thing. But as Keyshawn said right at the beginning of the offseason program, he doesn't know what a fair catch is. So whether it's kickoffs, punts, cornerback, nope, he's going after the football.
Hey, if Nixon can do what Nixon wants, you want to take it out 9 yards deep, be my guest.
Yeah.
Carlson, just kick it 9 yards deep too, and I'll be happy. Just don't let them take a touchback.
That's the other thing I don't think enough people have talked about too. I mean, Anders, that leg strength. And if you guys, two things. One, if you watch him kick, he actually has a short approach. He doesn't go back as far as a lot of the other kickers you're going to see. And two, he booted a couple right to the back of the end zone last weekend against New England. So Daniel Whelan is getting some opportunities on kickoffs too, but I think Anders definitely can solve that part of the piece for the Packers, because that was one area where I thought last year, especially down the stretch for Mason, that was getting to be a little bit more of an ask.
Awesome. Jimmy, you asked too many questions about kickers, so there goes your MMA question. Come on.
We'll squeeze it in at the end.
So you said on your way to practice this morning, you smelled like sweat, sunscreen, and sadness, which, believe it or not, is actually our nicknames. You can figure out who's who.
Yeah.
And it was warm out there. How many Powerades did Herman force you to drink today?
Well, very nice of Andy to bring Powerades for everybody. I had one. I actually, not to get into the TMI thing, but I think I overhydrated. I actually almost had to bail midway through practice to go back to the Johnsonville tailgate village to give myself a little more room in my bladder. I powered through it. Dude, for as much as, and don't get me wrong, it was hot and I wasn't practicing. I wasn't a pro athlete out there, but I was ready for to be on the surface of the sun, and it wasn't that bad out. I mean, I've been at hotter practices in Green Bay. We had a little bit of a breeze and then some overcast. That makes a big difference. But certainly for the guys that were out in the practice field, I think that probably was a little bit more of a battle. Talking to Jordan Love about that afterwards, he mentioned, they had cold tubs out for all the players afterwards. Matt LaFleur really preached to them beforehand, and even into last night, making sure that they're hydrated. And there was nobody pulling up with cramps, or any kind of, soft tissue stuff. It seemed like everybody got through it pretty okay. But fortunately for me, being the reporter, the challenge that this job presents, I was able to get through it without falling over or fainting or dehydrating myself.
What a feat of strength.
What's the go-to color? Red, blue, yellow?
I went orange.
Green.
How do you feel about that?
Orange. Orange Powerade?
Demovsky did the same thing. He's like, I don't like orange. I'm like, well, you're not the one drinking it. He went with blue, but I've always liked
solid Powerade color.
I have always liked either the citrusy type of Gatorades and Powerades, like the lemon limes. I don't like things that are too sweet. I like things that are a little tart. So that's the direction I went. But to each their own. That's the beautiful thing about living in a free country.
That's goddamn Wes. Yes.
I hate this conversation so much.
This is what you had me on here for, huh? Powerade.
That must be why you prefer Jimmy over me. You like the tartness over the sweetness. I get it.
Hey, man, I never said anything about liking Jimmy. So if you're saying
words in his mouth.
If you're saying that I like him more than you, it may not bode so well for you then, I guess.
As long as I'm above Jimmy, we're good.
I'm just going to leave, guys. You guys continue this.
Only got us through the first 3 seasons before this happened.
All right, Emmanuel Wilson,
Yeah,
the darling
let's
of
get to
training camp and and preseason games. Is it still Patrick Taylor's job to lose? Like, the big question is, will they even keep a third running back?
Yeah.
And if they do, is it still Taylor's to lose at this point?
Yeah, it's funny. PT, this is actually his 4th camp this year. Now, mind you, the 2021 kind of has to be thrown out because he had that Liz Frank and all those various injuries he dealt with coming out of Memphis. So he PUP'd that whole year, but he still has yet to make the 53 out of camp. He's had to start the last 2 years on the practice squad and then get brought up. So I know this is a big year for Patrick. Thing about him, though, that gives him sort of the edge, I would say, if there is going to be that third running back, which without Tyler Davis on the roster, maybe that becomes a little bit more probable, is the fact that he is so well-rounded and he has the experience. I mean, people kind of forget he is a part of that 2020 draft class for Green Bay. And I feel like you have to actually see Patrick Taylor in person to fully appreciate him as a player. Cause he's 6'2", almost 220 pounds. He almost is built like a Sean Richardson type safety. So I kept writing this and I kept saying it last week, when they were down and short on tight ends. Well, Patrick Taylor was being used as an up blocker on the kickoff return unit. You really rarely see that with a running back. Usually they're back in the posse with the kickoff returner. So he's very versatile and he offers a lot on special teams. Tyler Goodson, I thought, was off to a really strong start. Aaron Jones sang his praises. Unfortunately, he gets the shoulder injury. Lou Nichols, we really didn't get a chance to see a lot of because of a shoulder injury as well. But then here comes Emmanuel Wilson, from Fort Valley State, Division II school, who did kind of bet on himself. I think Emmanuel had one more year of college eligibility available, and yet he still went out. And the shiftiness of him, the explosiveness of him, and just the won't say die attitude, it's put him in the hunt. And he's not as refined, I think, as those other backs in terms of, we really haven't seen too much of the pass pro, but pass catching, pass pro, special teams, all of that factors into that number 3 job too, especially when you have Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon as your 1-2 punch to start with. So it's going to go right down to the wire. Depending on what happens here, if Goodson gets back this weekend, or I don't know if Nichols is going to be back, but this is going to be one of those type of preseason games, I think, against Seattle, where you're going to see 4 or 5 jobs probably decided during that game and seeing who steps up and sort of grabs that opportunity. But Wilson, for a guy that came in late, that was a D2 guy, I think he has made an incredible account of himself here in the last couple weeks.
I completely blacked out after you said that Patrick Taylor's built like a safety. All I could think about was, can he play safety? Because we kind of wouldn't mind that, I don't think, at this point.
Savage got hurt today too, and Anthony Johnson. Good.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, Savage had. I actually missed that part because I was over in a different area, but
the Johnsonville tailgate area.
Yeah. Hey, I did not leave practice. I held strong. But yeah, it sounded like there was some type of collision there too. It's been a wide open competition. And one of the things I've been telling people, more than any other position on the roster, maybe more than any other that I've covered, at least during my time with the Packers, it's hard to get your thumb on exactly how this is going to shake out. Green Bay has given all of those guys opportunities. Dallin Levitt is a core special teamer. I don't know. I can't remember if I've seen him run with the ones. I don't think he has. But from Rudy Ford to Tarvarius Moore to Jonathan Owens, and then even now Anthony Johnson kind of coming on. They've given those guys some opportunities. Who's going to grab it? I don't know, but the carousel has landed back on Ford, and to me, I thought he was the favorite going into camp just based on his experience. I think he's an excellent special teams player. He opened my eyes last year in terms of what a flyer can do in this league. He was first time probably since, maybe Janis, but before that, Jared Bush, as far as guys that you felt like could be a legitimate weapon in punt coverage. And I thought he earned the opportunity to compete for that job full time this year. And one story I'll quickly tell you, going back to April, the NFL draft, that was right after the offseason program started. And the Packers had their 3 days of the draft. After we get done, we go back to the locker room with Larry McCarron, myself, and my colleague Mike Spofford. We're going to do our 3 things wrapping up the draft. And I don't even know what time of the night it was, but Rudy Ford was in the locker room over by the sauna doing everything he had to do to take care of himself. And I thought he put his best foot forward this offseason. How does that shake out? Who gets that job? I'm not sure. The argument I've made the entire time is I think it's whoever has the best synergy with Darnell Savage. Because Savage, even though he's not a part of this competition, he is the former first-round pick. And he's a guy that I thought really shined early in his career. Last year was a little bit of a toss-up for him. But the Packers need to find a thing that allows him to be the best player he can be. And whoever is that guy, whether it's a deep free safety or it's a guy that's going to play more of that strong style, that's where I'm looking at as far as which guy complements him the best. But certainly that's a competition that is very much not settled as we enter this final stretch of camp.
Wes, myself, Dan Kotnick, my father, Doug Kotnick, and about 10 people in Miamisburg, Ohio might be the only Packer fans that are still 100% behind Josh Myers, regardless of anything going on. Can you do you have any sort of like insight of like where did this sort of like kind of crop up? Like, is this just sort of a get on the same page with Jordan Love kind of transitioning to Aaron Rodgers issue? Like, just like every time I talk to my dad, we're like, where the hell did this come from? Like this didn't happen with Aaron Rodgers.
Well, and this is one thing that I will say that tends to happen if there's been some errors or some miscues or missed opportunities or some tough days. I think we as a beat core, not to throw anybody on the bus, I think people tend to fly to that. I don't want to use the word negativity, but that's the only thing that's coming to mind right now. And then I think sometimes you see people pile on a little bit more than what is probably justly due. I think if there was really a strong concern with Josh Myers at center, I think you would have seen that rotate a lot more than it did. It was 2 days that I think Zach Tom took some snaps. John Runyon took some snaps there, but realistically, especially now with this injury to Jake Hansen, the Packers need those guys to take snaps. They don't have like a natural center other than Zach Tom, who's currently over at right tackle, to be that next guy up if something should happen to Myers. Josh is a mountain of a man. I mean, he is the biggest center I've ever seen, at least in Green Bay. I know Justin Britt, there's guys around the league that have played at 6'5" and that, but he's a big dude. And I think it does come back to what you're talking about somewhat of transitioning to a new quarterback, getting that feeling together, the offense, how it's kind of changed a little bit and some of the more under center stuff. It's all things that have to be played into it. But as Matt LaFleur was asked this morning when we talked to him, it's not just on the snapper. It's on, whether it's a guy coming in motion and doing everything he needs to do correctly, Jordan Love being on the same page with everybody. It's so easy to point to one specific thing, but it goes into so much more than that. And I think the Packers still very much have a lot of confidence in Josh Myers. And certainly when you look at this offensive line and them talking about building their best starting five, I think any way you slice it, Josh Myers is definitely a part of that equation.
Going to the other side of the ball, is this potentially the deepest, like if Wyatt takes a step up, this draft
100%.
class with like the deepest D-line we've had, if at least during Kenny Clark's tenure with the team?
During Kenny's, absolutely. And I'll tell you what, Jimmy, so it was funny. 3 things today, right? The video that we do for Packers.com, I was about ready to do Kenny Clark, and then Sean Clifford just put on another incredible performance in 2 minutes that just blew me away with how he finished that drive, so I didn't talk about it. But my point before that was going to be that, we've talked so much about these young guys. Kenny Clark, I think, has had back-to-back 2 of his best practice days since coming back from this back ailment. I mean, he won his one-on-one rep with Elton Jenkins. He looks strong. He looks physical. I wrote about last month, with everything that's happened with his father, how motivated he is to finally play in front of his dad this year. You guys know Kenny. He's just a complete gentleman, 100% as good as they get. And I think that with having a guy like that, a quiet sort of giant and leader, I think that has rubbed off on the rest of the room. And I just love what they've built there, man. I mean, TJ Slayton, Rasheed Walker, I think are probably in the conversation for the most improved players from last year to this year. I mean, Slayton has always been projected as a 340-pound run stuffer, but I think he's showing a lot as a potential, pass disruptor too, and getting push from that one technique. I think Wyatt, you're seeing the violence in his hands and just the physicality and the explosiveness. You can tell he's not thinking as much. And as good as those 3 guys are, and as promising as that group is, I look at Colby Wood and Carl Brooks, and I'm like, my goodness, dude, there's could have been years where these guys could have potentially been in the rotation right away or been potential starters for them. I just like the way that those 5 have sort of meshed together. Then you think about the possibilities with the Rashawn Gary and what he could potentially do as a down rusher and third downs. Lucas Van Ness, is there an opportunity there for him? And Jonathan Franklin. Sorry, Jonathan. Jonathan Ford, who is a guy that probably very few people have talked about. If it wasn't for Slayton, I think Ford has taken a big jump as a nose tackle as well. So for a position that had so many questions at the beginning of the camp, I feel like as far as training camp goes, you couldn't ask for a better situation for Green Bay right now, because I feel like that group in general has sort of been the ones that have set the tone for that defense.
Just stop the run. That's all. The whole thing.
100%.
Talking. That's all in my brain. I was like, just stop the run, please.
And that's the part of it, Jimmy, that, you just don't know until you're not thudding anymore. You're actually having to take these guys to the ground. But I'll tell you what, man, these conversations that they have about, TJ Slayton, the fact that he can dunk a basketball and the athleticism that's in this kid's body, and you put that at the nose tackle position at 340 pounds. I mean, in addition to checking all the boxes that the Packer scouts look for, I just think about what he could potentially do as an explosive threat to helping, make that happen.
So I noticed there at the start of question regarding the defensive line.
I know where this is going already.
You threw in Sean Clifford, a comment about him. You also tweeted this today, which feels like, are you angry for Clifford to get a starting job, Wes? Is that where this is going?
Oh, no. Okay. We tweet very quickly. Okay.
He's never coming back on.
I'm going to delete that right now. Hold on.
Don't worry. I have it saved. If anybody else wants a screenshot, grab it quick.
It's like the Aaron Rodgers thing. Here, hold on.
People don't forget.
Delete. That's hilarious, by the way. So it is not time for Clifford in that regard.
Todd's face lit up when he mentioned Clifford. Right away when you said it, just smiled.
I was like, oh,
you know
I have a thing.
Though? Yesterday, I came this close to tweeting at Anders Carlson, Mrs. Wife left. I've done that before, I remember, to poor kickers, where instead of, the D button's right next to the F button, so you do wife left instead of wide left. But I caught myself. But sometimes I get going too much. I don't think about what I'm writing. Sean Clifford, very impressive with the number 2s, will not be the Packers starting quarterback in week 1.
We're going to edit what you just said out and just keep it to the first part.
That's too funny. Good catch.
So for tight ends, obviously I'm very committed to one tight end for sure, hoping he pans out. With Tyler Davis's injury, is it a little surprising they haven't brought in a veteran to kind of, I know they have DeGuara, but he's also technically a fullback too. Is it surprising they haven't brought somebody in, or?
No, not on a veteran front, Jimmy. Now who knows what happens with cuts, final roster reductions. If there's somebody out there that Brian Gutekunst and his scouts have on their list that they think could potentially fit in there, we've seen more times than not they're going to carry 4 tight ends on this roster with the flexibility it gives you on special teams. Not to give you a long-winded answer, because I know I'm probably going to do that just now, but what hurts the most, and I wrote this in our Insider Inbox column for tomorrow, I feel so much better about the tight end position today than I did a month ago at this time, even with Tyler's injury. I think Luke Musgrave adds a dimension to this offense we haven't seen. The end around that we saw a couple of days ago with him, the screen options, how fast this kid is. Super impressed by him. I think Tucker Kraft is going to be a good ball player too. Maybe not be as day one ready or going to be thrown into the fire as much, but definitely I think is a gritty, guy that's going to go and do whatever the job is that's asked. Josiah DeGuara, I felt actually was on a kind of an uptick at the end of last year, was looking more like himself after working his way through the ACL. I think he brings a dimension to this offense they haven't seen. What sucks about Davis is I actually was my colleague and I, Mike Spofford, were talking about this. I actually thought he'd really improved as a pass blocker and a run blocker too. And at 6'4", 250 pounds, I mean, as Matt LaFleur keeps saying, he has the size and he had the speed, but I thought he was really putting it all together as an all-around tight end, kind of like what Robert Tonyan also did in the past. So those top three guys I feel really good about. It's just going to come down to, do you have somebody else on the market you want to go get? But I don't think that's going to happen until after, these final cuts come through.
Makes sense.
You know how much that hurts me to say too, Jimmy, because I love Sadie's more than probably anybody. But
did you see his Instagram post today of him and the Bears? Don't look.
Oh, wait, the one with him in the 84?
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it. Did he say something or was it just the picture?
No, it just hurt my heart seeing him in that. I just didn't like it.
You know what's
maybe
funny?
You shed some tears with me.
I would, but I'm so freaking happy for him to get this record. I know how much it meant to him, and I thought he deserved that opportunity. Guys, blocking in this league, I understand people don't want to have a blocking tight end. I get that. They want to have somebody that can do everything, but it's such a lost art in this league, and Sadie's has mastered it. And I just felt like when you talk about guys that have adapted throughout the course of the NFL career, nobody's done it better than Mercedes Lewis in terms of still staying at his original position and adapting. So you're right. It stinks. It hurts my heart that him and Robert are both down in Chicago, but to see them get opportunities, you can't help but be happy about that.
All right, I've got one more question here for you, Wes, but real quick, I'm going to do rapid fire around for everybody, okay? Yes or no answer. No other bullshit. Mercedes Lewis, NFL Hall of Famer. Wes?
Oh, I love you, Sadie's. No.
Todd?
No.
Jimmy? Get that man a gold jacket.
Jaguars Hall of Famer.
Oh, for sure.
Dan, I know you want to do a rapid fire. Can I just say one thing though? That's why
please
years.
do.
That's why it meant so much to me though, because Tony Gonzalez, Jason Witten, all these guys are Hall of Famers. Mercedes Lewis has such an interesting accomplishment in this league to last this long, but he's probably not going to. He went to one Pro Bowl in his career, so he's not going to have. He'll be in the Jaguars Hall of Fame, but he's not going to have that sort of accomplishment. So I wanted him to get the record for that reason. In this day and age, with the way tight ends are used and the way these guys, the position and it being more of a speed position now, there may not be a lot of 18-year NFL, 17, 15-year NFL tight ends anymore.
I blame the Jaguars for his not getting in the Hall of Fame, but I'm right. You can't say it, but I'm right.
Yeah. Wes, real quick, the last Packer question here real quick. Offensive and defensive player of the camp for you, if you had to pick one. You've thrown out a lot of names, but if you had to pick one on each side of the ball, who's the standout on each side?
Defense is pretty, as weird as this is going to sound. Carrington Valentine is up there. He had a hell of a camp. And I've said it time and time again. Now he showed last week and he's human. He's not just going to be, Jalen Ramsey on day one, but for a guy, I don't know if I ever recall a guy that so many people thought could have been a higher pick, including Mel Kiper, that fell as late as he did and still plays like the pick that everybody thought he should have been in the first place. It's the strangest thing to me. He's young, he's rangy, he's athletic, and he competes. And I saw that right from OTAs. When he didn't back down, because you guys remember, Jair wasn't here, Rasul wasn't here during OTAs. It was Carrington Valentine that's guarding Romeo Doubs. And he didn't back down from that. He didn't back down in Cincinnati against Jamar Chase. Super impressed by him. I think he's probably would be my MVP, just pound for pound MVP. Whatever you want to call it. Offensively, I think it's Romeo Doubs. Doubs, I had this conversation with James Jones, and James says he reminds him of Greg Jennings. I keep saying that he kind of reminds me of James a little bit, just based on how he's always in the right spot at the right time and is a facilitator. He moves the chains. and maybe his ceiling's higher than James, but I love the fact that when the chips are down, Romeo Doubs is a guy you go to in practice in 2 minutes, 9 yards away from the end zone in a preseason game. And the guy consistently performs in a business, fellas, where it is so difficult to establish consistency. Other than that ankle injury, whatever that foot injury he had, Romeo Doubs just came in last year and has just continued to be a guy that looks like he's going to be a 10-year player in this league and hopefully in Green Bay.
All right, I'm going to hop in with our MMA question before we send you out. Been thinking about it this whole time. It's a two-parter. That's my loophole. First part, what was
a 5-part question?
5-part question, but technically one. What was Sadie's reactions to Sugar Sean's knockout? And 2, what does Aljo do?
Dude, I didn't text him. I don't know the answer to that. I've been meaning to all week, and I didn't text him. I know he's happy for O'Malley. He's an O'Malley guy, so I know he's excited about him. I can tell you what my reaction was, but
please do.
Dude, this is what's funny too, Jimmy. So you guys, I know you're not into the UFC thing, but
I'm big into it.
Saturday night was really tough for me because I am into the UFC thing, and I had to cover a football game on Twitter, doing things on Twitter, while also not getting tweets about how the MMA fight is going. So I successfully navigated the entire night. I get to 1:00 in the morning. I'm sitting at Lambeau Field and I'm watching the rematch, the replay of this. And then the guy that I wanted to win just got completely knocked out. It's the worst night possible in terms of how things end, but it is what it is. But I know Sadie's is an O'Malley guy, so I'd imagine he's pretty psyched about that one. What was the second part of your question, Jimmy?
What does
It was a completely different question.
It was.
Okay. It was not a two-parter.
It wasn't. But I just said it that way so I could ask both. What does Aljo do now that he lost? Does he go
to 145?
Right.
Go to 145.
Okay. And then Merab would face O'Malley
or Cheeto. But yeah, eventually Merab. I saw Merab doesn't want to fight it until he faces O'Malley. So if the UFC lets him do that, fine. But I wonder if they'll end up making the Cheeto fight first and do him and Marlon Vera in December.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I now completely understand what my dad heard anytime I tried to talk Pokemon with him.
Hey, Dan,
this is when you
Pokemon
talk
too, brother. I'm good on Pokemon too. Whatever you want.
This is how I was gonna say what.
But Dad, you understand? Cheeto's got to fight O'Malley. Yes.
Mimikyu, my favorite Pokemon. I actually took this down because I had to do a legitimate interview, but I wouldn't take down the squirrel.
That squirrel's important.
I was like, hey, we got to be professional. I got to take down the Pokemon thing, but don't tell me to take down my squirrel. It's not going to happen.
I've never respected you more.
Buddy, we always appreciate you stopping by. You are in the you're in the Lombardi's Bar Hall of Fame for sure. That's for damn sure.
You're in third place right now, behind Kenny Clark, Joe Thomas, then you for most appearances. So if you want to beat them,
not. I can't beat him. I'll do my best, but I mean, it's like saying like, "Hey, kid, you're a pretty good ball player. See if you can be better than Jordan." You know, I can't be better than Kenny.
With the right PEDs, you can be better than anyone.
Hey, got nothing on that one.
Give us some TRT treatments going. Let's do this.
Soon, someday.
You want to let people know where they can find you and if they are living under a rock?
Yeah, thank you, Danny. At Wes Hod on Twitter and Instagram. I am now on Instagram, and I'm making a concerted effort on my Instagram. And as much as I would like to tell you I'm active on Threads, I am not. I do have an account at Wes Hod, and maybe someday we'll be more active on there. But as it turns out, that is the Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it this week. That's actually the only thing I can use for my job to put stuff up on the website. So that's the one I'm still stuck on right now. But if you want to follow a ghost account, at Wes Hod on Threads is also available.
We'll get it up to like 1 million followers just one day.
None of you guys watch pro wrestling, right? Any of you? There's a guy by the name of
pay-per-views.
There's a guy by the name of Dean Ambrose. Now he's in AEW. His name is John Moxley. But when he was in WWE, he had to create a Twitter account for WWE. Like they made him do it. And he actually put in even the thing like, I'm only on here because they're making me. And he had 0 followers and like 100,000 people that were following him. And he never tweeted. It was just a beautiful. He's literally just put it out there and people still followed him anyway. So maybe that's what my Threads will be.
Perfect.
I like it.
He's the only guy I know that calls me Danny. It's Wes Hodkiewicz. Wes, appreciate you, buddy.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Take it easy.
Thanks, Wes.
You guys proud that I only kept it to a two-parter? I had like 4 lines.
It's not a 2-part question, you moron.
It is. Because I said it's a two-parter.
It
makes it
separate questions.
No, if you say it's a two-parter,
I'm
they
not
don't have to
arguing
be
with you
related.
about this because you're wrong.
I know. I'll admit that.
So
I
we
still
should
can't
jump into
believe
the
Wes
next
is
segment,
pushing
right?
for Clifford to be the starter.
I know. Yeah. It seemed he seemed like upset he got caught.
Yeah, it seemed like a very manufactured reaction of like, oh my gosh, that's there. I can't believe.
It's for sure not deleted, right? He put it back up.
I'm checking.
I need someone go check.
All right, should we carry on?
I guess we should carry the hell on. Let's go to buy a round. I gotta get back in the rhythm here. It's been a while since I've had to run the show. How about Todd? Todd, why don't you go ahead and kick us off? I gotta go kick my dog out real quick. So go ahead.
Wes
I'm not
has
gonna be listening. So
Wes has
let's see where
deleted.
we go.
He really deleted it?
Yeah. A man of his word.
Your peer pressure is getting really good, man.
I've been working on. You guys were telling me that I was too good at gaslighting, so I wanted to
Switch up your toxic qualities.
Work up another toxic quality. So we're just going peer pressure now. My buy around is for Corey Valentine. I don't know why I said Corey. It's
I was gonna say, what's his
Carrington.
Corey Valentine.
Yeah, same guy, different jersey. So I'm gonna go with Carrington after being everybody's sweetheart of camp. Didn't look real good on Saturday night, but that's the Lumps' 7th round cornerback we'll take as a rookie. So grab a beer, bud. Relax. You'll be all right.
Go ahead, Jimmy. Go ahead.
I was gonna say it was the first glimpse of, oh yeah, he, like you said, oh, he's a 7th round rookie. Like the holding, it's all just too handsy, which you just have to get used to going into the NFL. It's like they're gonna call that stuff. Any slight hold, they're gonna call. So it just sucked. It happened in the red or in the end zone, and then on a 3rd down. But just growing pains.
Yeah, and honestly, I thought, oh, excuse me, that came out of nowhere.
Can we fire him too, Jasmine? Can you come back for him?
It's your fault she's gone.
Hey, I've learned and I've grown, and I will not make the same mistake again.
I didn't think Corey Valentine looked that bad Saturday. I think
it too.
I think it was.
Carrington?
What's his name?
What did I say? Corey Valentine? You motherfucker! You motherfucker!
Is this another POC?
I didn't think Carrington looked all that terrible on Saturday. I think it for me it almost felt more like, because we saw such a high level going into that him coming back down to like more of his regression to the mean felt a lot bigger because of that level we saw him play in Cincinnati the weeks leading up in practice. I will say too, a somewhat borderline call in the end zone like that. I'll take a guy being a little bit more handsy like that and putting it on the referee to make the call than somebody out of position or not trying to make the effort. He's always going to give you effort, and sometimes that's going to end up in a penalty. And I'll take those penalties if it means on the other end, like that pass breakup he had in Cincinnati that could have been a penalty. Like, if he's going to make those plays, I'll take holds in the end zone every once in a while.
I think his biggest, like, oh yeah, he's a rookie, was when he clearly was beat on that, what was like a slant route or whatever. Yeah. And he still went for the ball instead of just like, hey, you're beat, just tackle him. And I think that was like the biggest, like, he's learning moment. Like you said, those penalties they're gonna be fixed. It's just kind of fixing that mental part of knowing like when to go for the ball and when just to kind of take the loss at that point. But he's young.
Yeah. Todd, paid buy around?
Just did. I'll jump in.
Just did it. Jimmy.
I'm going with Goody. Kind of, it's piggybacking off Todd's right now. This draft class I'm not going to get too overly hyped, but it has the potential to be his best one yet. With Van Ness coming in, Valentine already starting off really strong. Jaden Reed looks like a guy. Musgrave has been we have a tight end right now that we can do an end around with in the red zone. They practice that. Like, when's the last time we had an athlete quick enough at tight end to be able to do that? So just the people we have on the team right now, Goody gets a lot of shit for this whole former quarterback drama, but I think he's done an incredible job, especially this year. And the team has, Todd said this a couple times last week. Right now, it truly does feel either 5-12 or 12-5. And I really want that 12-5 team because there's so much talent. Like, I would not be surprised if we just dominate the NFC North and have a strong playoff team. But then I will also not be surprised if we win five games. So,
yeah, and I think where the 5-win team comes from is, they'd be in most of the games. I think it's a very talented team, but when you're this young, like, there's just mistakes that happen. There are guys out of place. There's dudes that are thrust into playing more due to injuries or whatever it may be that get time that they normally wouldn't, and mistakes happen, like getting beat but trying to jump the route still, and getting cooked on something like that. So I don't see them being a 5-win, a bad football team.
Yeah.
I see it more they're in a lot of games, but would win 5 based on a couple of plays here and there.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, and Jimmy, you mentioned Matt LaFleur and Goody catching shit about the quarterback situation, and yet today the 49ers, the darlings of the NFC, are putting Trey Lance as the third-string quarterback, a man that they traded away more for Trey Lance than what we got for Aaron Rodgers. It felt like. Yes? Yeah. I think ultimately that it will come to that. That
they traded like 3 first-round picks.
3 first-round picks,
Trey
right?
Lance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great trade.
I just want to make sure everyone remembers that as we move on through the Jordan Love experience.
Like Aaron said on Twitter, though, like somehow John Lynch will still get executive of the year.
Exactly.
Like they'll skip over that part and just have him get an award.
John Lynch is the white privilege of NFL GMs. I am going to buy around for
every GM. There's a reason there's not that many black ones, dude. Because of the white privilege of being an NFL GM.
I'm going to buy around for Matt LaFleur and the hoodie himself, because it was that's not an easy decision on Saturday after a huge injury like that to just say to call the game, because as much as I think 80% of the population understands that and understands the implications, it's still hard to say we're going to end an NFL game, preseason or not, 10 minutes early, knowing the questions you're going to get, knowing what it could mean or what it might mean at a price point. That stuff doesn't matter, but you know that you're going to hear about it. So to make that call together, and I think it sounded like just basically doing it straight up. Like once we kind of knew what the situation was, they were like, no question, like this needs to end. Like we're done. So kudos to them for making the decision that they did, and fuck off to anyone that questions it.
Yeah, you really needed that last 10 minutes of an NFL preseason game.
I literally saw somebody like tweet to Andy, like, there are guys whose jobs could be won or lost in that 10 minutes. If you are winning or losing your job in 10 minutes of preseason game number 2, you do not deserve to be in the NFL.
You were probably getting cut at that point anyways.
Right.
Really, I'm just curious who I talked to about getting a refund. I spent $20 on tickets, so I'd like.
So that computes to what, like about
$5?
A little under $5, like $3.50.
Pay up.
That's a quick trip sandwich. So
yeah.
Stop and see my girl Melissa. Tell her I said what's up.
I did go in there yesterday looking for her. Unfortunately, she was not there.
She's got to have a day off eventually, dude.
Yeah, she can't work
I was
8
in there
days in a
every
row.
single night from Tuesday until Saturday night, and she was
Oh,
working
gosh.
every night. So
Are we talking the Lombardi Avenue quick trip right down the street there? That's my mainstay. That is my quick trip. I love that
yeah,
quick trip.
you go in there, see Melissa, tell her Todd sent you. She will not give you a deal on anything, and she'll probably go, who? But deep down, she'll know. She'll know.
She'll
I told her on Saturday night, I was like, hey, just like, this is the last time I'll be in here. I'm leaving tomorrow. And she said, you know, you've been saying that to me every day since Thursday, right?
I love
times.
Todd treating it in his mind like it's like the end of a romantic like comedy movie. Like, no, shh, don't talk.
It was.
We'll always have the
We
glaze.
grew to be pretty close. I made
If
a lot
you
of really,
didn't tell
I made
her,
a lot of really good friends on this trip.
Nah, not that close though. more of acquaintances, I think, personally.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially that Tomcat. Could do without.
Jimmy, who needs to pay the tab this week?
I'm going with Toure. Going into the season, there's a lot of hype on him, especially Labo in the chat was a big Toure guy. And Heath has completely stole his thunder. And kudos to Heath. He seems he's got the goon nickname or the goonish player nickname from Matt LaFleur. Made a bunch of plays. 7 of his 8 catches have come for first downs. Like, he's been clutch. He's doing everything right. That unsportsmanlike conduct where he blocked the guy against the Bengals out of bounds to the ground. Fantastic. That's what you love to see. But I think that's what everyone's kind of expecting from Toure. And we're just not getting like shit from him. He barely was targeted during the Patriots. He was really, all you saw of him was kickoff and punt return. And he still didn't really do much for that. Granted, Shamar and Jean Charles, I'm pretty sure, had like 2 holding calls on punt return, but it's still like, I guess I was expecting more of a kind of a jump his second year, not as drastic as Dobbs or Watson, but just kind of being the conversation for wide receiver 4. But now it kind of seems like he's 5 and maybe just not even on the team, depending on what DeBose does and Wyatt. So there's option, or Wicks, I mean, not Wyatt. So I don't know. His spot on the team's a question mark.
Yeah, I mean that's why I love this training camp and going in is because nobody's safe. Like there's maybe like 3 guys on the offensive weapons like side of it who are guaranteed a spot no matter what. Other than that, like it doesn't matter who the fuck you are. Like you will earn your spot here. And Samori Toure, I think a lot of people just kind of penciled him in because he's been here and he's getting his lunch eaten a little bit.
Yeah. When we've seen him move on from draft picks pretty quick in the past.
Amari Rodgers
should scare everyone.
I wasn't even thinking there. Who was the third receiver that they brought in with MVS and St.
Jamon.
Yeah,
Jamon Moore.
That they cut. He didn't even make the team out of camp, did he?
No, I don't think so. I think he was gone before. Yeah, but that was a different situation because that was still a pretty loaded. You still had Jordy, Randall, and Devontae, right? Really?
Not when MVS and EQ came in.
Matt Pickett, check that for me.
Oh,
he doesn't have the bandwidth.
The beauty of having a producer to look stuff up for us.
Okay, while he does that, Todd, why don't you go ahead?
Or
you can finish your. Okay.
You can pay the tab.
There we go.
Okay.
Because you mentioned it a little bit earlier. That you and your family are still behind Josh Myers. We have a thing on this show called the Lombardi's Bar Bump. You have been talking to us since he was drafted about getting him on the show. He's never been here. I don't know anything else in the world that could catapult his career to all-pro status, or at least maybe just being a legitimate fucking starter in this league, than coming on this show, yet we sit here with silence.
He should talk to Dean Lowry and get his horse steroids.
I was surprised I wasn't being taken out.
I forgot about the no steroid player talks. My bad.
Look,
Dean Lowry is completely on steroids now and should be checked.
Why'd you take me out?
Because it was a dumb comment. Anyways, Dan.
Fair enough.
Look, I've been trying. I'm working through conduits. It's not we just live in the same hometown. I don't personally know any of his family.
Then don't get our hopes up, you piece of shit.
There's not a single person that lives in my hometown that I couldn't get on this show tomorrow.
That's because you live in a town of like 200 people, and they're probably all your cousins.
Right, we all didn't.
There's 1,000, and I don't know most of them, so it's fine.
Anyways,
Here's the thing: I don't walk around saying I'm going to get this person on the show.
I don't walk
my family's
around.
tight.
I don't say that.
Do you think Myers plays a different position than center at some point? Do we see him at guard? Like if he keeps botching snaps, or just they want to try something new? Do we see that?
Can he play tight end?
Hey, drop some LBs, dog. You can do anything.
Safety.
Done.
I just picture let's run like a version of Tampa 2, but it's basically single high coverage, and Josh plays about 30 yards back, and he just waits for somebody to like break loose down a bolt down the sideline, and he just full sprint blows somebody up. That's what I
don't know if you know this, but I feel like all that wide receiver running back would have to do is just a real quick inside, just cut inside, and Josh is going to fall. Like
I'm not saying it's a flawless plan. I'm just saying I would love to see it.
That's fair.
Well, I already kind of used my pay the tab talking about the 49ers, so I will flip the script here a little bit and go to
who's their number 2 quarterback now?
That is Sam Darnold, Mr. Meningitis himself.
He's still in there. Let's go.
Grandma Joan.
Oh, shit.
Oh.
Hey, Grandma Joan.
Yeah, she's down in Arizona.
The NFL Hall of Fame can pay the tab because why is Sterling Sharp not in the Hall of Fame? You frauds. You absolute cowards. Put him in. That's it.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have got hurt. It's on him.
Respect. That's true, Grandma. She knows.
All right, guys. Let's do a quick fire here to wrap it up. What are we most looking forward to? Last preseason game on Saturday. Are we most looking forward to seeing? Are we most looking forward to a position battle? What are we seeing? Todd?
I honestly haven't really thought that much about this game yet. I just hope everybody goes out and has a good time and nobody gets hurt. That's really like just get out of the third game without any serious injuries. Be good to go.
I'm gonna go defensive line just with how well they did last week with Wooden and Brooks getting in the backfield a lot. Brooks had a sack that got taken away. Just seeing more out of that group, and maybe Lucas Van Ness, seeing if he can get in the backfield a little bit more. I know today he was with the down lineman for a couple during the position groups. So even let's see if they move him around would be fun to see. So I'm just going to look at that defensive line. Kingsley Enagbare, if he can do something, that 2-sack game, the strip sack and everything, if he can stack success, the whole Mike McCarthy moniker, I would love to see what he can do. So I'll go with that group.
How much time are you going to spend looking at Cox during the game?
I would say the whole second half.
Yeah.
And then I'll come back to the game and watch it for a little bit.
At least give me one safety. One safety show up in this game that makes us say that's the safety. That's the guy. Just give me one fucking guy out of
I really hope it's Simone Biles' husband, just so
Agreed.
we can have her around Green Bay for years to come.
Although we're Packer fans, we can't have nice things when it comes to celebrity wives and girlfriends. So,
yeah, Danica Patrick. What do you mean?
Yeah, well, she kind of went
with you?
No.
Your whole like thoughts and beliefs?
No. You can follow all three of us here. Twitter handles in
Why'd
the
you
bubbles.
ban Jasmine?
No, why did Jasmine get banned from the comments?
I just put her on timeout.
Jesus.
If you're lying in the chat saying that I'm the problem, you're gonna get put on timeout.
Follow the show at Lombardi's Bar on Twitter. Follow us at Game On Wisconsin on Twitter. Make sure you go subscribe to the Game On Wisconsin YouTube channel so you get notified every time that we go live. Jimmy, I'm going to leave this up to you. Do you want to tease who's coming on the show next week yet, or should we leave that as a surprise?
Fuck it. Doesn't matter to me. Tease away, my dog.
Go for it, baby.
Tell the people.
All right. Next week, we will have our reigning champion on most appearances on the show take his lead one further. Kenny Clark's coming on with us live next Wednesday at 7:30. So make sure you join us. Put some questions in the chat. We'll make sure we ask some as long as they don't suck. No offense to you guys. We'll ask him some questions. But yeah, probably first of a couple times to be on this year. So I'm pumped up. He's been on a couple times. He usually comes on right before the season. So another division rival this year. And hopefully he can sack Justin Fields. Maybe we can get him to do a celebration for us.
Oh, no. Okay. Everybody start thinking of it. Start thinking of something that we're going to have him do.
He should just pull Zadarius Smith, right?
That's what
Lombardi's bar bump on a white t-shirt under it. And
just LB bump. LB bump.
I feel like he's obligated. We did get him a contract.
How much money do we need to donate to get this to happen?
I think $0.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week, everybody. Kenny Clark joining the show. Until then, everybody, go Pack Go.